going on, guys? It's Seth, the Iceberg Burger, back with one more Defense Wins Fantasy podcast, part of the Fantasy Podcast Network of Fantasy Holics. Week 2 of the playoffs. Week 1 came and gone. You're either happy or you're sad, and either way, the show must go on. We're going to continue talking about some big-time pickups, some, one-hit wonder type week guys that maybe we can get you past the next round, getting into that fantasy championship playoff time. But we did have a couple questions from our fans this week, and I wanted to make sure that we covered those as quickly as possible. One of them, I reached out to them individually just because it matters with the game that is playing tonight. So just in case they didn't listen to it before the Thursday night game. But the first question that we have, the need to start 2, Jeremy Chinn, Jalen Petrie, Rashawn Jenkins. Listen, this one's a little bit tougher than you think. Petrie has had a tremendous rookie year. Rashawn Jenkins just had an absolute monster of a game last week. And Jeremy Chinn has been old, reliable, very, very solid safety for the Carolina Panthers. If you're in this trouble, this problem, you're probably okay for the most part of it. That being said, I got to go with Jalen Petrie, even though his matchup probably tells us that we should sit him. He's just put up too many points week in and week out to just ignore at this point in time. It's tough when you have a setup where you don't feel like it's going to get played out the way you think. And he's going into Tennessee, and he has Malik Willis at the quarterback position, which tells me that they're going to get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry. Not going to really throw it. They haven't really let him throw it hardly at all when he's played this year for Tannehill. But Petrie, the first thought was, no, don't play him. But the more and more I think about it, you got to get him in the lineup. He's a guy that got you to the playoffs. He's a guy that will get the tackles. He's not afraid to get in there and get the tackles. And, hopefully for the first time in like 2 years, they'll be able to make Derrick Henry not rush for 200 yards. We'll see. We'll see. But that would be my number 1 pick on there. Really, probably he's the number 2 guy. But the other one that I am playing is Rashawn Jenkins for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are playing against the Jets led by Zach Wilson tonight. He just got an opportunity for interceptions there. It's plain and simple. I think that the Jaguars are going to go in. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to be playing from ahead for the majority of this game, which means they're going to have to force Zach Wilson to throw the ball, which means he's going to have the opportunity to get some interceptions thrown his way, but more so often than not, he's going to get some tackles. He's probably not going to get 18 tackles like he got last week, but he's going to be up there for points. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't saying anything against Jeremy Chinn. He has been fantastic like he has in past years. It's just he's been banged up this year, so people kind of have overlooked him to an extent, and he's coming off a phenomenal game as well where he had 14 tackles. They're putting him back in the box. They're trying to do that. I wouldn't be upset if you take him, but if you're going to look at certain situations, I just think that there's more opportunity for Rashawn Jenkins against Zach Wilson than we have Jeremy Chinn against Jared Goff. Both of them probably will pass a decent amount, and that's kind of why originally I said Chinn and Jenkins. But Petrie has just been so good for this entire year that it's just you can't keep him on the bench when you're playing for the playoffs. You just can't. When you're trying to win a championship, you got to put your best guys in there, and he's been one of the best guys this year. Second question that we got. Chase Young is back. Do I play him? Do you play Chase Young coming back off of a knee injury that was aggravated in preseason again? In his first game back, while you're playing probably to get yourself into the championship game of your league? No. He came back in preseason. He got hurt. He tweaked it and was out up until this point. They're going to have him on a snap count. You're going to be hoping that he might get a sack and a half, and very minimal play. They just want to get him some live action football. I don't expect him to be fantasy relevant at all, like I said, unless he trips and falls on a guy. And if you remember my conversation before the season, he wasn't playing that well when he was healthy last year at the beginning of the year. He's going to have rust at this point in time. He's not going to come in guns blazing and save your team and ride off into the sunset. It's not going to happen. Keep him on your bench. I'm assuming it's a dynasty league that we're talking about. Keep him on the bench. Hope he does something, but I'm not putting my fantasy championship on the line for a guy that came back from a devastating knee injury that was re-aggravated at the beginning of this season again. So no. Play somebody else and be happy. And if Chase Young has a great game, be happy that he's on your team. But do not have the faith that he's going to prevail in this very, very tough situation for him this week. All right, so now that we're going to move on to our gems of the week. Once again, some players that I try to look at that won't be on rosters typically. At least they're going to be available in most leagues. And try to give you a one-hit wonder, basically, a week where these guys are going to kind of show up and show out and help you move on to the next round. So we're going to start with the defensive line. And the guy that I want to talk about is Joe Tryon. I believe it's now goes by Joe Tryon Shoayinka. I apologize for butchering that. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, defensive end. He has quietly had a pretty solid year for them. He's not blowing the doors off of stuff, but he's playing pretty well. How well is he playing, Seth? Well, he's playing well enough that he probably might be more rostered than you think. He's got 4 sacks this year, which is what he had last year. 29 tackles, 13 of those solos, 16 assisted. But he's been coming on late. So the last few games, he's really, I apologize. He actually has had a little bit of a slow dip the last 3 games. At Cincinnati, he had a half sack. But before that, he had a sack, and then he had a sack about every other game. The point on why I think that he's going to be valuable this week is he's sitting there, and he's going to be playing Arizona. He's going to be playing Arizona's third quarterback, Trey McSorley. He's going to get to the quarterback in this game. Their offensive line is not the best. And without a mobile quarterback, at least to the extent of Kyler Murray mobile, he's going to get off that edge, and he's going to close the gap and get a sack in this game. Once again, I don't think he's a guy that's going to be owned in a lot of leagues, and so that gives you the opportunity to kind of go out and grab a guy that might just help you. Again, I would only be playing him if it's a, big play type of league where you're getting a lot of points for a sack, like 8 points, 8 points for a sack, kind of like if it's 2 or 3 points for a sack and it's, 1 or 2 points for tackles, you can find somebody that's going to get a lot more tackles to even out that balance. But if it's a big play week where a sack will really help you, Joe Tryon is the guy that I'd go after, Joe Tryon Shoayinka. The other guy is somebody I've been actually really excited about the last few weeks, and that's Azeez Ojulari of the New York Giants. This D-line for the New York Giants is fun to watch. It just is getting better and better. So he came back from being injured, and he played. His last game was October 2nd. Then he played all of December so far. And what has he done in December? 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, pass defenses, a couple hurries, and tackles in there as well. He has been a man possessed. And if people are looking for pickups and they're not looking at points per game, or they're not even going with looking, statting out the last 3 weeks or something like that, where they're actually just looking at overall points, he's not going to be on anybody's radar. But the guy's been killing it, absolutely destroying it. And he only had a half sack last week because Kayvon Thibodeau basically took every point you could have for a defense. So what's that mean? That means the Minnesota Vikings are going to be game planning for Kayvon. And Azeez is going to be the other guy on the other side of the edge that's going to be getting to the quarterback. Minnesota's O-line is not phenomenal. It's okay, but he's going to feast. He's going to get a sack in this game. There's going to be some opportunity. I think the Giants have a great opportunity to win this game. So there's going to be pass rushing downs for this New York Giants defense. And Azeez is the guy. Once again, Kayvon is most likely on just because rookie, high profile, especially after last week. Somebody picked him up, absolutely. But the guy flying under the radar that's been more consistent than Kayvon, who the last 3 weeks has more, overall balanced points than Kayvon, is Azeez. Grab him, play him, and be happy. Now we're going to move on to some linebackers. Another young linebacker here, Jamin Davis for the Washington Commanders. Last year, he really struggled with the playbook. They came out and were honest about that. He did not really pick it up as fast as they expected. This year, he started a little slow. He had a couple nice games with some sacks early on in the season, but he wasn't getting a lot of playing time. He wasn't getting the tackles. Since November, though, he's really started to pick it up. And the last 3 weeks, he has had over 10-plus tackles in each of those games. So we're getting the consistency. He's proven he can get to the quarterback. I think he's got 3 sacks this year, albeit most of them at the beginning of the year. But he can get some forced fumbles. He can have coverage ability. He's getting better and better at that. And once again, because he's kind of was a little bit of a slow starter this year, might be a guy that's out there. Pick him up, take a flyer on him if you need somebody. And once again, I feel good with the consistency. I feel good about the matchup against San Fran. They're going to want to run the ball. They're going to throw short over the middle. They're going to pass it to Kittle. They're going to keep the ball moving forward, but it's going to be not massive down the field plays. It's going to be across the middle, short, sweet, slants, West Coast offense style, run it up the gut. Jamin Davis is going to be in line to have a lot of tackles. The other guy that we're going to talk about, we talked about him before, and then last week kind of fell off because Pete Werner came back, but then Pete Werner immediately had a hamstring injury, and now he's probably out for the year, is what the expectation is. So we're talking about Caden Ellis again for the New Orleans Saints. He, even in splitting time with Pete Werner last week, he still had 2 assisted, 2 solos, and a sack. Not the biggest, strongest game out there, no, but you get that sack in there, it's a nice little bonus. Now he's back to taking all the snaps again. He's going to, once again, have an opportunity, just like with San Francisco on a run-heavy team with Cleveland, to have an impact made, to get the tackles, to keep it in between the navigational beacons, if you will, to make sure that he's just killing it out there. They're going to run the ball heavy with Chubb. The weather is supposed to be not ideal, so guess what? 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Well, somebody's on the other side of that 3 yards, and that's going to be the linebackers for New Orleans Saints. So Caden is the guy that, once again, probably isn't owned. He might have been dropped after the Pete Werner news. Go look at your waiver wires. Pick him up. If you've already had him, feel comfortable in playing him this week because he's going to go off. And there's one more player I want to talk about. This is more of a Hail Mary kind of play for you. And it's Troy Anderson of the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta has basically said, we're looking to the future. We want to see what we have in these guys. They threw in Ritter and want to see what he's doing. Well, they're doing the same thing on defense. Anderson has taken over the starting role over Walker on that defense because they want to see what they have. He came in again last week, and Had 7 total tackles, 5 solo, 2 assisted. Solid numbers. He'd had some lower numbers over the past few weeks because he's only been playing a little bit of part-time. If you remember, the last time that he had a starting role, he was dropping double-digit tackles. He had 6 assists, 7 solo in a game, and he's all over the field. That was for injury purpose of Walker. He came in and played that game. Since then, he's been getting more and more playing time. He understands this defense. He understands what's needed out of him. And the thing that I like about him the most is I think that he's going to be the QB spy on Huntley. He's got the athleticism. He's going to be there against the run. He's going to be there and possibly getting a sack on some of this play action aspect of the game. I think that if you need a Hail Mary where somebody might all of a sudden throw up a 25, 30-point game just out of nowhere, Troy Anderson for the Atlanta Falcons is that guy this week. Finally, we'll move on to the D-backs. Another guy that, this one's just a gut feeling for me. I'm going to be honest about it. C.J. Henderson for the Carolina Panthers is my pick. Playing against Detroit, pass-heavy offense. Throws it to the running backs a lot well onto the outside. C.J. Henderson, the cornerback. Last week, he basically got forced out due to an ankle injury, but he's been full participation since Tuesday of this week. All systems go for him playing. The week before that, he had an interception, had a pretty good game due to that mostly, but you're getting a guy that's getting some tackles. 4 tackles the week before that, 10 tackles the week before that, a little bit of a down week, and then he had 8 tackles against the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a guy that's been very up and down over the year. J.C. Horn's playing across from him, and he's going into a team like Detroit that's going to pass the ball. So there's going to be some opportunity to get those tackles. Once again, this is a gut play for me. He's probably not owned on hardly anybody's rosters. And if you're looking for somebody because let's just say, he plays Saturday early game, so you're not going to at least know too much. But if you get smoked a little bit tonight and you're needing a Hail Mary throw on the cornerback situation or D-back, either way, look his way. Once again, am I going with stats and figures on this one? No, not really. I mean, outside of the Detroit is a pass-heavy offense. He's playing against a stone-cold stud corner on the other side. J.C. Horn hasn't been proven as much as some of the other stud corners like A.J. Terrell, but he's good enough to make them throw CJ's way. I just think that he's going to have one of those games this week. Final player I want to talk about is the Arizona Cardinals safety, Jalen Thompson. Coming off last year, Thompson was had a monstrous season. Him and Budda Baker were top 5 safeties on the same team. In all of fantasy, they were top 5 and they were on the same team, which is insane. Jalen Thompson played 66 to 69 snaps last week, and he's been 100% the last 4 games outside of that. Has it shown in production? No, it really hasn't. So, what the hell are you talking about, Seth, right? Jalen Thompson is going against Tom Brady. Tom Brady is an artist when it comes to throwing short over the middle completions. Deeper slants, dig routes, tight end seams. He gets the ball in the middle of the field, and he's not scared to throw it there. Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker are the guys that are going to be there to take care of this. It's just the way that Tom Brady has always played in his career. I expect Jalen to have the opportunity to have a breakout tackle game this week. Is he going to get a big play? Probably not off of Tom Brady. He's still very accurate, very good, and very smart with the football. But is he a guy that could get 10 tackles this week? Absolutely. And that's what I expect for him. I expect for him to be over 10 total tackles this week, giving you the opportunity to push forward for a championship. It's not rocket science when it comes to defense, but you have to kind of really look at the tendencies of offenses. And that's the tough part. It's like, oh, yeah, well, on offense, it's very easy to know how many times your running backs ran the ball. It's very easy to tell how good the defense is against the run. when you talk about defense, it's more where do they throw on the field? How much do they run? And is it inside or outside? Do they run screen passes? Do they throw to their running backs a lot out of the backfield? When they do throw it out of the backfield, where are they throwing it to? Is it into the flat? Is it across the middle? There's so much more that you just detail that you need to look at. The first thing you start with is snap percentage. Opportunity has to be there. Then you start looking at the opportunity for where the plays are going to occur on the field. And this week, I feel like I gave you some guys that are going to have those opportunities come alive and hopefully bring you into the championship game next week. With that being said, good luck. We'll see you next week. And remember, defense wins fantasy. See you guys.